Check Complete, a referee podcast, is an educational resource for referees by referees, designed to connect and develop soccer officials of all ages and skill levels to better serve the game both on and off the field. Okay, we're here with National Referee and organizer of the Terry Vaughn Referee Academy, Esad Omanovic. Esad, how are you, sir? Greetings up there in Des Moines, Iowa, right?
Yes, Gordy, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast. I'm looking forward to having this discussion, and it's probably chilly up here just as it is down there in Kansas City right now.
It is. No pressure, but you are the first guest ever on the Check Complete podcast. I just want you to be aware of that.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, we'll lower the bar now, listeners, viewers, just lower the bar now. That way, if it goes well, it superseded your expectations. But if it's terrible, then it meets your expectations, right? That's a good way to live life. Anyway, so Esad, we've asked some of our listeners if they would like to send you some questions. So we have a few of those, but I really want to just kind of hear about your journey, sort of how you got to where you are today. I'm sure that's a long and windy road, and we don't want to start at your birth, but maybe how did you get into officiating, if we could start with that and kind of go from there?
Yeah, it is a long and windy road. Officiating started back in college when I played at Grandview University. 2017, we had a local assigner called Bonnie Larson reach out to us and say, hey, we're doing this referee event that she hosts every year. We need some volunteers, so if you can send us some of your players over, that'd be great. I played for Bonnie when I first started in rec way back, and I was like, you know what, that'd be kind of cool. Let's go out and see it. And I went out to the tournament. It was an AR for I don't know how many games, made some money. I remember calling a goalkeeper, leaving the penalty area and handling the ball off a goal. Not a goal kick, off a clearance. So it was
good. That's the spirit of the law anyway. Yeah.
So yeah, I started off like that, and then Bonnie was just like, you know what, you're a college student, probably need some money. How about you think about us registering for high school and make $55 a game, that sort of stuff. And I was like, oh man, $55 a game. Yeah.
That's the most money I've ever seen.
$5 goes a long way when you're a broke college student. I spent all my time training and in class and, research and all that other stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'll take up this offer, did my first class in March 2017. And then, 2022, here we are. So kind of a short road in a sense, shorter than most, but long in terms of things that I've done, the games I've gone to, the paths I've kind of taken, and that sort of stuff. So it seems long but short, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So yeah, 2017 is the first class I took, and then here we are.
Wow. Yeah.
Blessed. I mean, honestly, quite honestly, blessed to be able to do everything I did. We'll talk a little bit about the Terry Vaughn Referee Academy here and how that had a huge role in my development and how I got to be part of this, I guess, So, yeah, I guess, what else do you want to know about that path?
Well, yeah, that's interesting. Brent's going to have a follow-up question here just to kind of maybe expand on that a little bit, but that timetable is interesting. 2017 through, and then, that's when you started, right? You'd never picked up a whistle prior to that.
Never picked up a whistle. I think I did one game as a assistant referee for a friend. He called me up really last second. He was like, hey, you're down the street from me. Nobody showed up. Do you want to come out and help me? I'll pay you $20.
Yeah, there you go. So that's
let's go out and do that. So
yeah. So that's 2017, and then 2022, you're at National Camp for Pro Camp.
Yeah, so 2017 and then 2021, I get an invite. I think it was November or something like that. Hey, I get this email. Congratulations, you've been selected for National Camp. Here's the details. Here's when you have to fly out and that sort of stuff. So surprised, really pleasant surprise. A great start to the morning. Was not expecting it, but I've had a lot of people influence and help me along the way. So thankful for everybody along the in the journey, the mentors that have helped me, the feedback I've received, the ups and downs. It looks like a straight path, but in reality, we've had a lot of these. Like we can talk about a little bit about that. There's one game in particular that really stands out into. I think it was probably the most important game in my development, and probably wouldn't be here where I'm at right now if I didn't have that game. So.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that game. But yeah, Brendan, why don't you ask that follow-up question here? Yeah, about your journey.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of referees kind of in the same starting out spot that you came from, coming from being college soccer players and then transitioning to the referee role. So I would like you to kind of expand a little bit more on your journey from grassroots to regional to national. So like, what are your keys to success and things that you'd like to pass on to referees that are following that path?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's important to know that everybody's journey is different. Everybody ripens at a different rate, and that's totally fine. You don't want to push it to be too fast because that can kind of bite you in the butt later on. The faster you push, the higher the expectations. The expectations of me are much different than expectations of a grassroots level referee, right? Sometimes I envy that. Sometimes, it's nice to go to a game without having this huge kind of weight on your shoulder, like, hey, man, I got to perform to the best of my abilities every single time, every second of that game. Every little decision I make is going to be kind of critiqued in a sense, not only by players, fans, spectators, but by myself. I'm probably my worst critic. I'll go out there, find the littlest things and I'm like, no, that bothers me. I got to change that. So everybody's journey is different. I think mine, the playing pathway helped quite a bit, right? The football understanding. I played this game my entire life, understanding what it is expected out of referees, what I expected out of referees. I think a lot of referees say this, but they were probably the worst people to the referees. I don't know if I was terrible, but I can't remember I can't remember a game I didn't get a yellow card in, something along those lines where, and that stuff helps because now I know what to look for. The players are like, oh, I didn't do that. I was like, oh, come on, man, I did the same stuff. Come on, you can't get away from me.
Right.
I was like, I was better at it than you. So understanding the things that they're doing and getting the understanding of the game, I think is really important. Playing collegiately helped my understanding of the game grow tremendously. I'm not played high level youth academy at that time, travel, all that sort of stuff. Never made it to nationals. We lost in our state cup, and fortunately we didn't have many teams in our state at that age group, and it was single elimination. You just shut off for a second and you lose the entire game. It is what it is, but understanding that helps quite a bit with our development. So I use a lot of that in my refereeing, nowadays. So I think that's a big thing for me personally, the understanding of the background of the players and what the coaches are expecting and understanding the difference between frustration and, actually being yelled at and that sort of stuff. So,
Yeah. That all makes total sense. We did have a handful of questions that came in from our listeners and viewers. So I want to get to a couple of those. We don't want to take too much more of your time, but one of them that was really interesting to me is how has knowing another language affected your communication on the field?
Ooh, that's a good question. Depends what language you know. Spanish is a big part in our everyday lives here. I know a little bit of Spanish, so I know enough to be able to get away, not enough to be fluent and have a full-on conversation, but understanding certain things that are being said to me, being able to reiterate what I'm trying to say to the player helps quite a bit. I can tell you, I just did a game last year in the fall, adult regional cup over 40s. Man, was that a game? Whoa. If I'm talking, I'll talk about my open cup experience, but man, that was another thing as well. I had Hispanics on that team, Bosnians, Croatians, Serbians, and that's where it helps me quite a bit because I know that Eastern European side of stuff. I know the language, I know the personalities. So here I am coming out on a game and, adult amateur stuff, you really don't get a chance to look at, especially that level, adult amateur, you don't get to look at player stats. There's nothing out there, you don't know who's playing. You just come out and you're like, all right, these are the teams we have. And The fact that I came out there, they're talking to each other in Croatian, and I'm just like, hey, how's it going? I start talking to Croatian. It's like, he's one of us. And it's that whole thing of like, he's one of us, he understands us. So all of a sudden they can relate to me and I can relate to them. And it makes it easier. It's not going to be, it's not going to go peacefully as I'll mention in this game. I think I had 11 yellow cards because they just didn't listen. One red card eventually, but it is one of those things that being able to relate to them and speak to them in their language actually helps quite a bit within player management and game control. Because that game could have gone out of hand. I was talking to some friends afterwards. I'm like, what could I have done? I'm like, Esad, if I was out there, it'd probably be worse because they would not listen to me. They'd see me as an outsider. So it helps in relations. You can relate to something in your past or current situations and that sort of stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. So go ahead and dive into that. So you're referencing some of the U.S. Open Cup game that you had. I know that was formative for you. Could you, without ripping the scab off too hard, right? Could you address some of how that was formative in your career?
Yeah. So the U.S. Open Cup, 2019. So 2017, I become a grassroots referee, regional 2019, I believe, or state referee at that point. And I get this assignment, not knowing much about the Open Cup, that sort of stuff. I get an assignment in the email. Hey, you've been selected to officiate as a referee, second round of Open Cup. Let me know your availability. And I'm just like, is this me? Is this for me? So a little backstory. There's another referee, a Pro 2 referee, a pretty good referee, great guy named Elvis Osmanovic. Our last names differ by one letter. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're Elvis. I'm like, no, I'm Esad. But the last name, it's so similar. So I'm sitting there and, Rick Eddy sends me this email. It's like, man, I call my mentor. I'm like, hey, do you know anything about this? No, I didn't put your name up for it. I was like, all right, what do I do? I don't know if I'm ready for this, and I email him back. I'm like, hey, this is Esad Omanovic from Iowa. I just want to make sure this game is intended for me and not Elvis Osmanovic from Florida, And he's like, no, this game's for you. So we go into the game, fast forward into the game. And I'm nervous, it's a good kind of nervous. Like I'm excited for it. I'm going to go out there, perform the best that I can. But quite frankly, the performance wasn't the best, I've had, we talked to the assessor afterwards, for regional, you did fine. For national, and I'm like, all right, no. Listen, I want you to critique me like a national. Because for me, I'm always looking, here's where I'm at, this is where I want to be. So in order for me to do things like to get to that level, I need to be doing the things that they're doing and the expectations of them. So I always looked at myself that way. And I'm like, all right, so as a national, what do I need to work on? And we talk, obviously after a game, you kind of know how well you did, but that was a big pivotal moment in my career because I haven't had a game to challenge me up until that point, like really challenge me. And that game, you're working a professional team, St. Louis, now they're in the MLS against Des Moines Menace, who is the USL League 2 team. And St. Louis is expecting, they were in the championship at that time. Their fields are pristine, everything's nice. And the Menace, they come there and they're like, what is this grass? Or I'm like, man, Iowa, this is the best grass we got. And they're expecting much better. So, frustration starts early on. And, going into halftime, I had 2 yellow cards, and then everything from there just kind of went downhill. I can't remember how many yellow cards I had. I had eventually 3 red cards after all of them were second yellows. But it was just a moment of understanding, like, here's where you're at, and this is the expectation, and here's what you need to work on to get. So I looked at that game and I said, okay, let's critique the game. Let's critique myself. What did I do well? Okay. How can we improve that? What didn't go well? And how can I really improve that? What do I need to focus on? What's my biggest thing that I need to focus on? My fitness has been always phenomenal. So that was a level that I didn't really have to work on too much, but everything else, managing, talking to players, making sure my message is being sent across. So that helped. Going into the regional events, right? 2019, I get selected for youth nationals. And the big part of that for me was that game, learning who I am as a referee, learning not to change who I was. You go into the game, they're like, this is what pro is expecting. And so you're just like, all right, I want to get to pro. This is what I need to do. And it's like, no, be Esad. Be who you are. Be the referee that got you this game. Don't change what you're doing on a brand new game. Just do what you do well. And that was a big learning moment for me, was like, you know what? I don't care what they want at the moment. I'm going to do what who I am. And I really kind of, I had this stuff kind of being tossed at me. This is what they would do. This is what they would want. This is how we were being taught at pro. And I'm just like, I'm not in pro. So at that moment, I just was like, I'm not pro. I'm not in pro. So I, as much as I want to get there, I'm not there yet. So focus on what I know, focus on what I do well. And going into that season, that's what helped a ton,
Yeah. So it's another question. We know you're getting a little bit short on time here. What we think our listeners would really like to hear about is the Terry Vaughn Referee Academy. And what is your involvement in that, and how did that start, and what does that mean to you as a referee?
Yeah, absolutely. The Terry Vaughn Referee Academy was where it all started for me, in a sense. 2017, I take my first class. 2017, we go into the Terry Vaughn Referee Academy that year. No idea who Terry Vaughn was. I'm coming into the brand new referee. I don't know anything about refereeing, and I'm like, all right, let's go into this event. And I still remember a video. There's me with Rick Eddy walking around talking about 10 things referees can do without any skill, or things like they don't require any skill at all. And camera passes by, and here I am as a player, leather jacket, blonde hair. It looked terrible. And then I remember sitting there looking at all the things that everybody else was doing, and those things that Rick Eddy was talking about. And I'm like, yeah, I'd like to go to the regional event. I'd like to do that. That looks cool. And that's where it really started off for me. And that's why I'm thankful for the organizers and Terry, obviously Terry being Iowa's first FIFA referee. He's a huge, big deal, nationally, but let alone in Iowa. He's one of the proudest individual out there. We take great pride in Terry. Terry, unfortunately, was diagnosed with Huntington's disease that ended his career prematurely. He's still alive, thankfully. Great guy, phenomenal guy. Got to know him a little bit over this last couple of years. But Terry's whole goal was to provide education, higher level education, to our referee community here that they normally wouldn't get. So fast forward to 2020, I believe. 2020 is when I got asked to help with the Terry Vaughn Referee Academy organization and all that. Obviously, COVID kind of cut it short, so we couldn't do that. So last year we brought it in a virtual setting, which was had a lot of challenges of its own, but I think we produced a great show. And this year we're trying to do the same. We had over 500 participants last year virtually, and we're trying to bring in more. We have Joe Fletcher coming in this year to talk about AR stuff. Obviously, Joe Fletcher, the AR expert, coming in to talk about AR stuff. Mark Catalesic coming in talking about referee positioning, and things to look for. We have a couple other things. Margaret Domka and Sky Arthur Banning coming in to talk about mental health and officiating, which is a crucial topic. I think it's one topic that it's drastically overlooked, and it's really important. We have Nisoa Ben Trevino. He's going to come in with a coaches panel. Pardon me, coming in with a coaches panel to discuss, referee coach relations and how we can improve that. What do coaches look for in referees, that sort of stuff. It's going to be great. And then we have Candace Farberry coming in to talk about women, mentoring women, another area where we really kind of lack in the referee community. I think nationally we have 12% women representation in refereeing. So what can we do to improve that? And what can we do to improve the relations between us and that community?
Well, there's a couple more that we want to ask just very, very quickly as we wrap up our interview. Thank you for your time, Esad. But I think a very pressing question that was asked was someone wants to know, they need hair advice for maximum presence on the field.
Lay right.
What?
Lay right.
Right, like the hair?
Like, no. It's a brand. I'll send you guys.
Oh, it's a brand. Are we allowed to talk about brands?
Here's my life motto: look good, smell good, feel good. All right, and as referee, the first thing people are going to notice is your appearance, right? You got to look the part, and if you don't look the part, you're going to be judged before the whistle. So I don't know what I do with my hair. Sometimes it's just natural; it grows like this, but
well, it looks beautiful.
I'm happy to take questions afterwards.
Yeah, well, you can find Esad on social media. What's your social media if people would like to reach out to you?
Esad Omanovic. I am not very present on Instagram, Twitter, or
No.
Facebook. I do a lot of reposting. But I don't want to cut this short. I do have a webinar to get on to, so I don't want to be late to this. Please reach out to me afterwards. So I really don't want to cut this short, but I do have to go.
Yeah, I know you got to get on there. So Esad, thank you so much for your time. We love you, buddy, and we thanks for your input and all that.
Yep, thanks, Esad.